What is going on, guys? Today I just did a actual live coaching over at paramedic and went over a 10-day sort of study plan for the members that kind of crunch for time and they want to kind of really get into passing their test and succeeding on their exam they have coming up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the national registry exam. It could be a class quiz or a final or something like that, right? But what I wanted to do, and something that came to mind, what I thought was important, was to talk a little bit about when you're sort of auditing yourself and figuring out where you are weak. Okay, because I think that's key, right? If you are not honest with yourself as to where you are struggling and you keep saying, I've got this, I know that, when it comes to exam day, you're going to be struggling and you're going to end up failing or not doing as well as you want, or leaving the exam stressed because you don't feel confident you passed, right? So, one just to keep this video short is one thing that I always try to tell members that are like, "Oh, I'm in EMT school or I'm in medic school, or whatever," and they're not quite sure. And it's overwhelming, all the content that you have to know, right? There's two things. One is a daily review or a weekly review. But since I kind of come just to kind of a reality type point of view, I know everybody doesn't have time to do daily reviews. Okay. So, but what I do tell people that I think is most important is to do, at the minimum, is a weekly review. So, once a week, the end of the week, you need to really dedicate either an afternoon or an evening on that weekend, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. Yes, I know it's the weekend, but dedicate one of those days to review everything that you went through during the week. All the lectures, review your notes, what you've highlighted, okay, all that stuff. So this way, getting back to what I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, is you can audit yourself and say, okay, I took notes about this, or I highlighted this, and I don't understand it, right? So now that you've done this review for the week, you can actually focus in on those specific areas that you can go back and study, get deeper into it, so you have a better understanding of that content, so that each week you're going into the next week with new content that you have to learn and know and study without having all the previous weeks building up behind you, and you don't have a full grasp of that content yet, right? Because then when it comes time to study for gets towards the end, you're studying for your exam, you're going to feel like, oh my God, I don't remember how many bones are in the body from, week 4 of class. And I'm still trying to remember EKGs and pharmacology or geriatrics or something like that midway through, right? So while you're in the new stuff that you're learning, you're still thinking about the stuff weeks before that you don't quite have a handle on yet. And sure, you're going to be weak in some areas going forward every week. There's a lot of content, a lot of stuff to remember. You're going to be thinking about the stuff that you don't absolutely grasp. And that's why we study every week. This is why we have a plan, why we stay on top of things. We have exam prep, and we learn things to help us study better. It's not just about memorizing things. But when you do the weekly review and you dedicate that time, you can really focus on the stuff that you're weak on. So in the notes of this little show here, I said that, yeah, it takes a little time, but it's going to save you time down the road if you're not behind everything that you haven't reviewed on. Okay. So by staying on top of things, come, closer to your final or your weekly quiz or your um, national registry test or a state exam, whatever it is, if you wait to the end and start reviewing your notes, you're going to be in a little bit of a pickle. Okay. Doing it weekly, you can stay on top of things. You can audit yourself. I talked a lot about that in that video I did today in the members area, that you have to audit yourself and you've got to be honest so that you know what your weaknesses are. You don't want to keep reviewing things that you already know, right? Everything's overwhelming. Reviewing the same stuff that you already know, that you're comfortable with, doesn't pay off in the long run. So by doing the weekly reviews, going over your notes, when you've highlighted, lectured, listened back to audio, if you recorded your instructor, giving the lecture, that's going to help you really zero in on where you're having an issue. Now, if you do have time, like I mentioned, daily reviews are amazing, okay? Because your daily review, you can do much shorter segments of your lecture notes before class or after class, okay? And you can start doing it right from the beginning of each subject. And then at night, you can kind of just recopy notes. I go over this in the exam success course, the paramedic, where I talk about the right way to study and highlight and things like that, where you can recopy your notes. That is a great way to actually study. All right, especially when you have things that you kind of do have to memorize, right? Parts of the body, how many bones, where they're located, things like that. You do have to kind of memorize a lot of that stuff. So by recopying your notes every day, you will stay on top of it. And then when you get to the weekly review that I talked about earlier, you're going to find your weekly review is going to go much faster with less confusion, and you're going to have a better sense of what you're doing and what you're understanding if you get to do the daily reviews. Guys, I know this is time intensive, okay? But honestly, daily reviews, just like you go to school, you do homework, right? Doing a daily review might take you a half an hour to do, but it's going to save you hours down the road when you're getting ready for your final exam, when you're getting ready for the national registry exam. The same thing with the weekly reviews. Doing the weekly review is going to save you hours down the road, and it's also going to help you with your confidence, boosting it up, and it's going to help with your anxiety and stress, making them go lower. Okay, so keep that in mind. While you might say, "Oh, I'm not doing this review stuff," think about it for a minute, because it can really help you in the long run. Guys, I hope this makes sense. If you're interested in joining me at Paramedic, you can be a free member. Just go to myparamedic.com. You can join me free as an inside member there. Hope this helps you guys out. Please leave me some likes, some comments below. It really does help me and keeps us up in the feed. As always, Jim Hoffman, stay safe.